I want you to take 2 minutes and I want you to make your teacher exemplar over question number 3. 20 more seconds. Okay, so now that you know what the question is and what's going on, let's go to the next slide and let's open our no-show chart. And let's make sure that we had everything on our no-show chart that we needed for kids to be successful on this. When you open it up, you need to go to 7A, which I'm not sure what slide that is, but it is 7A.
It's slide 8.
Awesome, thanks, Stephen. Okay, so analyze and evaluate how evidence of common ancestry among groups is provided by fossil record, biogeography, homologies, including anatomical, molecular, and developmental. So this one's pretty glaring. You missed what?
Diagrams.
Well, and this isn't a cladogram. It's y'all know
The phylogenetic tree.
Yeah. So I'm gonna add under show. I'm gonna do cladogram / phylogenetic tree.
Because I sure wrote cladogram showing mitochondrial vacuum, and it is a phylogenetic tree.
And well, and here's another thing too is you'll see this in a second. None of our kids put that it's a phylogenetic tree. They all put cladograms.
You know why? I didn't say that one time in my classroom.
Yeah, well, and it wasn't on our no-show chart, so it makes sense, we just forgot it. And sometimes that happens because look how many things are on that one teak. So I am just actually gonna copy this question and put it over there too, so that we have the tree, since this one is so heavy. Do you have anything else or any other words that you want to see? Do you think I need to be more specific when it says analyze and decipher? Like, do you want me to put, because I've already looked at this, so I'm getting a little ahead, but I did teach this in my classroom, but I only taught it as most related. And so that, I didn't teach it both ways.
Okay.
Yeah. And I also taught this I called this a family tree, because phylogenetic really scared my kids. And so, do you think do you want to add that in there too? Or do you think we need to keep on calling it phylogenetic so that way if it says it?
I would keep calling it phylogenetic tree, just because like,
Okay.
I think it'd be easy for students to see like an example of one on the bottom, or even the one that we had in the question. Like they might see that and be like, oh, so like a tortoise is in the same family tree as a horse.
Sure.
And that's not what we want our kids to come back and say to us.
The first thing you said when you walked in my classroom week 1 was vocabulary is literally 90% of the test, and that is a huge vocabulary word.
Yeah. And like I'm just looking back at the question, but the question says a cladogram of the result is shown based on the cladogram.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Which set of bat species is the least related? So they called it a cladogram too.
But it's not, right?
No, it's not.
And so I think that the biggest thing is the most and least related, because we only looked at like what is related to this one? How does this branch off and relate to this one?
Because when we taught cladograms, we only taught it as a timeline. We didn't really teach it as a relation.
As a relation, and that's what we taught it to, as a timeline.
Yeah, we did say that. I'm gonna add that too. I'm gonna say cladogram equals timeline on a tilt.
Yeah, that's what I heard over and over again as I was in each room is that, and I mean, kids were doing it with their hands.
Yeah.
So this would not have clicked as a cladogram in their heads.
So do you feel now that the no-show chart is updated so we don't miss this next year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go through now, let's go back. I would like you to take your master student work. It says correct on the top. And remember, we're looking at question number 3, okay? And we're gonna take 2 minutes and we're just gonna kind of brainstorm, what do we see the mastered kids? Because we've already admitted that we didn't, I mean, I showed them a phylogenetic tree in my classroom. Some classrooms didn't get to it or didn't do it. So how did these mastered students get it correct then? So I'm gonna set it, well, let's just, for a couple minutes, get your thoughts together, and then when you see something, shout it out and I'll type it. Remember, we're just looking at question number 3.
One of the immediate things I noticed is they're the furthest apart.
They're the furthest apart.
Yeah. And that seems almost be consistent.
They only have one thing in common.
Yeah.
They actually got it, they were looking for the least.
Yeah, I
This
see.
one says they're on different parts of the cladogram, so that one actually that one understood the phylogenetic tree, that's impressive.
At least related meant that they were gonna be further.
Yeah, I see least related, super common in the what is the question.
Not in the same.
Jones, you
set.
said they said different part of
Yeah,
that?
they're on
Yeah.
different parts, so
Okay.
they're understanding the tree
The actual
element of it
parts.
without us actually
Yeah.
teaching it.
Well, like, just a few of my students even counted, like they, like my first set of students said they were 10 bars apart from each other.
Okay, so some
Right.
students actually counted.
Yeah,
Yeah, and this one said they separated more from the other group.
yeah, I see, I think way more consistency in our W portion for our swag, where our kids are asking what is least related.
So they
I think-
understood the question. is
Yeah,
what it said.
I like this one, they're not in the same set.
yeah,
And everybody identified it as cladogram.
yeah.
And I didn't even realize, cause I've read that so many times, that it said cladogram, cause I just assumed, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Okay, so basically, to summarize what we said for mastered student is, number one, they understood what the question was asking for, our W's were the same. And then they understand that least related was farthest apart, and some of them showed that whether they were counting it in bars, whether that they were not on the same part of the graph, or whether they were in different sections, they were the farthest apart.
Right.
Okay, so let's now go and see the gap and see where our kids that got it wrong messed up. So if you would, get out your incorrect, okay, and then looking at question number 3, telling me what you know. Just so you know on this one, A was the second most chose answer.
As just like an immediate observation, I think it's really strange that the students that got it incorrect are pretty much asking the same question.
Yeah, they are.
Like they know that the question is asking which bat species are least related, and even on some of their justifications, like this one says they have the least amount of connections. One of them says they are the least connected to each other.
Because they only have another bat that is related.
Yeah, in the
Yeah.
actual table itself, it only had one other one that shared a similar
Yeah.
species to it.
Steven, you just said "oh" really loud.
Yeah, that
What
was
did you-
that, some of them are connecting the dots between the amount of similar species in the
Yeah.
actual chart versus like the genuses versus the actual, species. Instead of going by organisms connected by the tree, they're just looking at the organism list and going, they have a similar genus, they have a similar genus, they have a
So
similar
they're looking
genus.
at the
Uh-huh.
names.
Yeah.
Okay, so instead of using the graph, they are using the names.
Yeah,
This one
instead of
really
using the
good.
graph as a whole, they're just going by the name.
This one really jumps out to me because it says, like, they got the question, what is the least related to the rest? And they said because they're at the bottom, and so when we were talking
Yes.
about the cladogram being a timeline on a tilt,
Oh, okay.
the least
Oh.
related were way back here on the bottom to the newest species.
So
Yeah.
they did it as a timeline.
And so they thought, well, these are at the bottom, so they must be the least related.
Which in theory is
That makes so
actually
much
how we
sense.
taught
We
it.
taught it that way, yeah.
Yeah.